This is another edition of Targeted. My name is Kristen Manners, and I'm joined today by my co-host Dee. And today we have with us Monica Barron, and she is a resident of Florida. And I'm so glad that she was able to connect with me because she has a amazing story, and I'm so hoping that we're able to help her out. As a result of targeting, has recently just lost her 15-month-old daughter, and it's an absolutely disgusting, despicable story. And my heart absolutely goes out to you, Monica, because when I had the chance to talk to you, I absolutely could not believe what I was hearing. So just go ahead and tell us exactly what has happened. And remember, the whole purpose of Target is for you to have the chance to tell your story. So just go for it. Knock yourself out. Let us know.
Okay, my name's Monica Barron. I live in Venice, Florida. I'm 42 years old. I've been a resident of Florida for 30 years. And I'm from Pittsburgh. I have been a victim of domestic violence. In 2014, I became a victim of domestic violence where I had to have my fiance arrested because he attacked me in a drunken rage and broke my jaw and strangled me till I was unconscious. And I went to the hospital with a broken jaw. And when this happened, I believe is when the targeting began. I had a restraining order on my ex. And when I put the restraining order on my ex, I had called the police because of an attack. And they couldn't do anything to arrest him that night because he was drunk, but he's very conniving. He's very manipulating, and he had the police manipulated, believing I was the problem. And I'd never been in trouble for anything big, but I had been partying before I met him. I believe that's another reason I was targeted. The databases is what it is. In the state of Florida, the database, if you get arrested, if you have public record is everything in Florida. You know, you can find out anything, whether you're married, divorced, your arrest record, it's all on one database. And I believe that's how I was targeted. The DEA has us regulated in the state of Florida if you get prescription medication, and I had flipped my car off the interstate a few years before that, and I started taking oxycodone through the doctor. I had a pain management doctor, and this was when I believe this might have started. The DEA started targeting people who they believe were doing, illegal activity. This is how I think it happened. But I was just on the database because I had pills. Well, everybody was on watch in the town I live in. And that's pretty much how I think it started. Like maybe the FBI was watching the town. And I started dating my boyfriend, who was later my fiance. He had come from California, and his dad also works for Lockheed Martin. Where I'm believing, which is a connection in this, because Florida is where NASA is, and we have Lockheed Martin. His dad worked right here, 20 miles from me. So,
well, actually, I'm very sorry. Let me interject here.
Well, I'm just saying.
All the red flags have been hit. This is amazing. From what I'm hearing, Florida is one of the main states where people are targeted. Anywhere you have a mass population, and the distribution of the population, you have California, Texas, New York, and so forth. Florida is one of those states where it's very easy to get targeted. If you're not a model citizen in these particular states, you're going to get targeted.
Yeah.
Now, if you're dating someone from Lockheed Martin, you're receiving B2K. That's a no-brainer. Okay.
Right.
Your boyfriend is the perp here in the situation. Yeah. At 42 years old, and you lost a 15-month-old baby, are you still fertile after this, or are you starting to go into menopause?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, she was a late in life baby though. I had her at 40.
Okay, because at some point, and this is all population control, this is all population reduction, it's all social engineering.
Yeah,
and this is
Yeah.
This may be
Population.
a situation to get you to not be able to be in a stable situation, so you're not children anymore and that sort of thing. I want to let you go ahead and let you know about that.
Yeah.
But please go ahead, continue on.
Well, like I said, 3 years ago, this happened 3 years ago. I've had 3 years to soak it all in. You know, I mean, it's really quite crazy because you don't know about this if it doesn't happen to you. It's just you look crazy, and it's all there is. Well, as this happened, when I started dating my fiance, I was going through a divorce. So my husband and I were married for 11 years. We sold weed back in the day, and that's how I believe. You know, this is 15 years ago now. You know, I believe that's how this might have. You know, maybe that's how I don't know. We never got arrested. We never got in trouble. I'm not a felon. I have no, no major, nothing on my record that would be enough that would really red flag you. And that's just all there is to it. Well, I started dating this guy. His dad worked for Lockheed Martin. He just moved back from California. We grew up here. Me and Jim, or my ex, we grew up here. And we both lived here our whole lives. He moved away for 6 years to California, and he was a criminal over there doing bad things. And I didn't know this. You know, when I met him, man, we hadn't seen each other. We knew each other. We were 10, 14, 16. I moved to Jacksonville for college. He moved to California. Then, 35 years old, 34, I meet him again. So, I knew the guy in my head, but you don't know someone when you haven't seen him in 15 years, 20 years. So he was doing bad things up there. He just did some crazy stuff, okay, up there. So we'll just leave it at that. He comes back, we get together. I let him move into my house. My husband and I split up. I have my own trailer. It's a mobile home, but we live in Venice, paradise. This is literally paradise. There's nothing better than down here. I didn't realize it till now, but that's what it is. Them. I find out that, he was doing some stuff, but I didn't put two and two together because I didn't know about this stuff. He told me that he started using drugs. He started hearing voices. He saw the devil sit beside him, like crazy stuff. And I was just like, man, don't do that. You know what I mean? That's what I was thinking. And now come to find out, now that I've been on this mission for 2 years, he was originally, he was already on this project because he started using drugs. That was their way of flipping him out. He didn't realize it though. So he starts dating me. He tells me about this flip out. I just assumed it was drugs, And then this happens. He had told the cops that it was I had been using drugs before. He always blamed it on me. Even though I quit, I'd stayed clean for 2.5 years. He always had in his mind that I was doing things behind his back because he's abusive. He was controlling. He was the controller in the situation. Well, when I called the cops, he broke my jaw. I had to have my mouth wired shut. He broke my jaw that night and attacked me. I had pushed record on my phone, and I got the whole audio of the whole thing. So I've got from the moment he walked in, you can hear, I'm laying in bed. He's bitching for an hour, and finally comes in, rips me out, attacks me. I wake up, I'm unconscious. I wake up, I realize my jaw is broken, and I flee. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I drive 2 miles to the hospital, and the nurse calls the cops, and the cops come in, and they're like, what's going on? And I was like, I told him, and the cop's like, all right, we'll be back. Well, when he comes back, the cop, when I filed a restraining order on him, the last time my fiance had called me or had beat me up, I called the cops. Well, we live in Florida. We have hurricanes all the time. So torrential rain, it took them 45 minutes to get 2.5 miles down the road. And when they got there was no bruises on me or him. So they just made one of us leave. Well, they made him leave because it's my home. But he had him convinced she's on drugs. That's what they always do. The abusers always it's her. And so that I'd already been seeing a domestic violence advocate who is a psychologist in the state of Florida. We have a team, domestic violence for rape, safe place, rape and crisis center. So it's for rape and domestic violence victims. They have shelters for us and stuff if you get beat up, and they'll help you get your shit together. And you have a shrink that'll come and see you. Well, when he had been abusive, I started talking to this lady. When I got the restraining order, the cops hand you a flyer. And I think that's how it started. The cops hand you this flyer, and you call this, it's a nonprofit organization. You call them, they give you advocacy, they can go to court for you, they help you fill out paperwork, they help you fill out the restraining order, give it to the judge, that stuff. So,
okay. You're going a mile a minute.
Well, that's how I think they started. Because the cops.
I'm going to interject here.
Yeah.
Just to slow down the pacing here.
Yeah.
It's all very overwhelming, And,
Yeah,
and
it is because it's crazy.
I want to cover the technology and the
Yeah,
occult
me too.
mysticism
Well,
that is injected into the social ideology of what's going on here. I want to say about the drugs and all that stuff, and there are those of us who are shamans, and there are those of us who are not. Okay, when you understand of the fact that the expansion of the human mind is due to psychoactive substances, psilocybin, for example, our relationship to a mushroom. This is what
Right.
has expanded our consciousness and so forth. And anyone who's a shaman or knows of any of that stuff, natural medicine, I'm not even get too detailed down that path. I'm giving you a clue as to where to start. But the CIA, I got to put my foot in there really quick. CIA started this whole, mind control and social engineering and all stuff with LSD and all this stuff. But they also added in the electronic aspect, the covert technology. Now, anyone who's messing around with drugs got screwed with psychotronic weaponry.
Yep.
Voice the skull and all that stuff. This is what was hidden from the church committee. Okay?
Yes.
They thought, oh, just LSD, just LSD. Mind control through drugs. You cannot do mind control just through drugs. Sure, there's a hypnosis aspect of it, but that's where the covert frequency technology comes in. Nobody knows any of this stuff. There's duality to this, okay? There's not one without the other as far as direct government mind control. Now, just to give everyone an idea as to the importance of you dating someone from Lockheed Martin, there's CIA, and then about 5 steps up, there's Lockheed Martin. You don't mess with government military contractors, okay? This is
I know this now. I don't know. I didn't know, dude. I know, right? I got you. So see that back in the day, they used to, the CIA would give out the LSD and then do the research on it. Well, now to hide their covert operation, now they know who you're doing anyway because they're watching through your phones, they're watching through your cell phones, your TVs, your smart everything's smart. Your Bluetooth speaker, you don't even know. Your phones are 2 ways. And so anyway, I end up I don't know this, by the way, but before this I didn't know nothing about technology. I am a massage therapist by trade. I had that was it. I just started working full time after my husband and I got divorced, and I thought, my husband was a weed dealer. I married him. I wasn't a drug dealer. So after this, I get together with him. I got clean. When I got together with Jim, he just drank. I didn't even realize he was an alcoholic when I started dating him. But that's what happened. I ended up, I got clean. When he met me, I was all messed up. But pain pills, they were legal. They had the doctors here in Florida had us so high on these drugs, we didn't even know what we were doing. Now here, I broke my back. I not broke it, but I messed up my back. I flipped my car head over heels off the interstate, and when I landed, it was upside down. So I had already had a major accident before that. I've had 3 major car accidents. So my body's like not right. It's my neck's like complete. I had to have an MRI. That's how this, I believe, they got in. I had to have an MRI of a brain injury. I had a brain injury because when I flipped the car, I smacked my face and scarred my neck. I have whiplash both ways. So my body is messed up because of that. So that was another end. Now I'm on that database for the pain pills. The doctors give me really high amounts of drugs. And then the DEA cuts off the drug supply to the state. Because it was like this was back 10 years ago when oxycodones were first out, and the distributors were pushing them. It's all about big farm too, here in the state of Florida.
Absolutely.
Big farm is everything. So now I'm on a database. My ex-husband has been arrested for weed. Now I'm with this guy, right? And he's in the database for domestic violence, but his dad works for Lockheed Martin. He's retired now though, but still, you're already in there. He went out to California, started using drugs, became a drug dealer. The voices started for him down there, but then it ended up swallowing him. he ended up becoming homeless, losing everything, coming home to Florida. Then we meet up. So when I called the cops, I got the restraining order. I'd already had this lady I'd been seeing through Spark, which again, it's all through the military runs the police departments. So, you know, even though your local police department may or may not be involved in it, they know because they hand out this flyer that they don't know what's going on up here, but that flyer is from them. You know, the CIA is the one who makes sure all your nonprofits. And anyway, that's how I look at it. So now they're targeting drug addicts, and we don't even know we're being watched. Well, when I got rid of my boyfriend with a restraining order, I filed a complaint on the cops because they let him come back the next day, and so I was pissed at the police department. He was supposed to have 15 minutes. They gave him an hour, and he wiped me out. He took my stuff, his stuff. He's only supposed to get personal hygiene, clothes, and tools of trade. He took lamps, cups, I mean everything. He wiped me out, plus personal items. So I called the cops to file a report and complain because why'd you give him that long? And so now I'm a target now. Plus he's telling him I'm doing all this bad stuff. And so when this second time, now I'm at the hospital. Now I have a real report here. The cops come, they're like, okay, what's going on? Give me a report. They go back to my house. They said, we're going to go talk to him. He cleaned up everything. I mean, there was broken glass. There was blood on the floor. You know, I mean, like I said, he hit me hard enough that he broke my jaw in 2 places. And I have a plate now in it, and my mouth wired shut for 3 months. And he strangled me unconscious. So I wake up, I'm like, it's a mess in there. You know, we're fighting. He comes back and cleans the place. He doesn't leave. I went by myself. He cleans the place. Cops come, talk to him. He's so manipulated that he actually convinced them with a case of beer in him that I was the one who attacked him. So they come back and they're like, you know, good news, bad news. Good news, well, you're not going to jail tonight. And I'm like, why would I, you know? Well, he said you attacked him. Bad news is he's not either. So they end up having to take me to another hospital, which, again, the hospitals are in there too. You know, the hospitals have a lot to do with this because that's where the psychologists are. And I believe it's the psychologists that are behind this, you know, the psychology unit. They're giving us PTSD with the voices. They're giving us meth psychosis with the voices. They're giving us delusions of grandeur with the voices. In my case, because I did the meth, they gave me the altered state of reality, which was the visuals and the hearing. They played street theater with me, where they had, anyway. So I end up going to the hospital. I'm there for 4 days with this broken jaw. I have a detective working on the case for me. Luckily, I had that audio recording. It took him 4 days before they arrested him. He harassed me the whole time. And then he goes to jail. He had a $100,000 bond. And I go home. And for 2 weeks, I stayed with my mom because my mouth was, you know, broken. And then me and my mom don't get along. We just don't. We never have. I'm an only child. We never got along. And I end up going home. Well, and like I said, I owned my own car. I owned my own house, but I owned my home, but I didn't own the land. So I paid $275 a month. Where do you live for $275? So I have this little piece of property for $275 a month, and it's mine. I own the place, but not the land. And then I had a car, a full-time job. Now, I tell you this because I want you to know where I was at in my life. I've been a drug addict. I'm 35 years old. I got clean. I've been clean for 2.5 years. We drink beer, and that was it. You know what I mean? I finally had my shit together. I got my own house. I had domestic violence relationship before this with my ex-husband before that for 11 years. So, you know, I think that, again, I had to get a restraining order on him. We're in the courts because of the divorce. You know, it's all interlinked. So at this point, I come home and I'm depressed. He's in prison. I've never been alone before in my life. I'm 37 now. I have no money coming in. You know, I got my last paycheck, and the state of Florida gives you a victims compensation fund so now you're in the Attorney General's, you know, database because you're getting this victim. If you have a job in the state of Florida and you are a victim of a crime or you're injured, you get 77% of your income, and then that your assailant has to pay it back when he gets out of jail, like a probation thing. So he's in jail, but he's sitting on a $100,000 bond. 2 weeks into it, I have my mouth wired shut, and I fall off the wagon and started using drugs again. And it was pain, really, for me. I've been on pain pills for so long. When they gave me 2 Percocets, and I've been on methadone, oxycodone, Xanax, Adderall, like high doses every day for 6 years because of my pain. And then I kept using them, not realizing I was, you know, addicted to them. I've been clean off pills. I've been clean off every drug. I was good for 2 years. And then they gave me 2 Percocets.
I must reiterate here, and people need to understand that drugs is the perfect scapegoat.
Yes.
Whenever
Yes.
you are the target of a covert faction or covert technology, or especially with the scientific community that we have today, which is directly controlled by the elite class, the Illuminards, our spy agencies, the experimentation. Now, you want to talk about a fascination? These intelligence agencies, these people are on drug addicts faster than the pedophiles are on the children.
Yeah.
Anyone who is doing drugs or anything like that, they immediately flip on them situations
Yep.
that they can experiment. These people are studying people, especially drug addicts. They're studying. With
Right.
the surveillance program that we have, with the CIA bringing in all the cocaine and trafficking all the children, and all the stuff, it's being done purposefully. They're bringing in all the guns. Oh, gun control. Any of these situations that are the government, the main government, wants to get rid of, is being instigated by these intelligence agencies. Now, it's all social experimentation.
Right.
It's all genetic. Any kind of, you can break it down all down the line to genetics. They're experimenting everything.
Yeah.
There's
Can I interject something here too?
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think also on the drug end of it, in particularly prescription drugs, opioids.
Yes.
I believe this is my personal feeling. I personally believe that they are working with the DEA because anybody now, I know for a fact because I've been on prescription pain medication for a long time because I have had 4 major back reconstructions and I have RA and pseudo gout, that they will coin anyone as an opiate addict. And so I've never violated my contract. I've never taken any more pain medication than I'm supposed to, not ever, not ever. But the minute you get a pain medication script, you are coined an addict. And so if you are also a targeted individual, I believe that they do work with them because of this mass hysteria in this country over opiates, and they are doing anything and everything to tear the product away from people in general, period, end of conversation. Now, why is that? I believe it's because they're trying to get physicians off the hook from what has happened to people that do abuse it, that is coming back on them. It doesn't matter who you are. They're trying to get you to stop doing it. They don't care what is wrong with you. Mm-hmm. And I seriously believe that. I really do. Whether you're responsible with it or not. Because there are people out there that do need it, that are responsible with it. They don't care.
Yeah, no, they don't.
They don't care. And the way that I am treated, I had to go to the emergency room this morning, and you are automatically and instantaneously treated like a drug addict, and I've never had any issues with that in my entire life. So I do believe that it has something to do with that. So in your case, he is right. You have had every single solitary element under the sun that has characterized you. And what I found was interesting about your story when you started talking to me about it was that after this incident and the fact that your boyfriend was involved in all of these things together, that right after you had your child, this seemed to have started to occur. even more.
Well, not really. Within 2 weeks of him going to jail and I came home, I was alone and I started using the drugs. It was pretty much right on it, because I remember when it first started, it started off as paranoia. So I would hear people, like, I heard someone knock on the door, and I'd gone crazy. Okay, I'm a talker. I talk with my hands. I talk, And
Yeah.
When I got my mouth wired shut, I went nuts. Like, I couldn't talk. You can't move your mouth. You can't eat. I'm hungry. You know what I mean? I have plus, remember, it's pain. On top of it, he choked me, so I had a hard time swallowing as it was. I had bruises on my neck for weeks, and the shit was cut in my mouth. Well, then I started using the drug, for the pain, because those pain pills weren't working now. Once your tolerance is so high, even when you get off of them and you're clean for 2 years, your tolerance is still high. Like, it would take like 4, 5, 6 of those to work. So I was like, I don't want to I was scared. As stupid as it sounded, I was scared to get hooked on the opiates again, because it was so hard. I paid $1,600 to a detox doctor 3 times to get off those pills that the doctor was giving me. It was just so hard. Finally, that last time, I did it right, and I weaned myself slowly, and I was good to go. Well, then, after that, with this pain, I was scared of those Percocets. That's what it was. So, and plus the meth was helping my mouth, helping better, but it wasn't. It was making me try to talk and tell the story. Everybody in town knew. It was in the newspaper, even here in Florida, which I think is really shitty. You're on a database if you're a domestic violence victim, just like anybody else. It's public record, so it's just blacked out. You can't read the details of the information. So now we're on that database. And now Florida is one of the smart states that are in this technology. So now I come to find out later, the CIA has been in the state of Florida for many years. Like, they have three headquarters here, one in Orlando, one in Tampa, and one in Miami. Well, there's 60 universities in the state of Florida, and 3 of them are major researchers. DARPA has a place in Miami. One of the International University of Miami is one of the 6 major technology schools in the state of Florida that have CIA intelligence and counterintelligence programs to become a CIA at school, at college. I didn't even know.
Well, that's all well and fine if you want to look at it from that aspect. What's really important is how many fusion centers are there.
Yes,
that's
yes,
go
yeah,
in
the FBI
between.
Fusion Center. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they do. The FBI Fusion Center is in Tampa, and Tampa is about an hour away from me. So we have a DARPA scientist in Tampa that was saying that that waves were coming from the Gwen Towers right out of Tampa, and a lot of people had started complaining about the audio. And years ago, it used to be, before they started talking, it was techno beats. Every time I would hear electricity, it would be a techno beat I would hear. So like my refrigerator would be humming, but I'd hear because back in the day when I was a child, I did use psychedelics, and I went to the raves and stuff. I'm 42 now. I'm all grown up. And by the way, I have a 22-year-old son too, so that kind of comes in too. His father was in the Navy, and I was married to a Navy man in Jacksonville. When I was 18, I got married. So that, I believe, has a little bit to do with it too, because the story does get deeper, but I don't. It's too creepy to even think about or talk about. So I'm sticking with what I know of Lockheed Martin. But his family, my ex-husband's family, was from Germany, and his grandfather was part of the Stasi. So I don't know if that happens to like coincide, or it's just another attack on me because they know so much, because of his grandfather was in the Stasi but came to America and joined the Marines. He was in there. So my husband's grandfather was a Marine, but he was in I think he was in intelligence, because he was one of the ones who would get the women when they went on tour, and he worked for the Stasi. So he was in the Marines. The whole family joined the military. So my son's now, when this is happening, my son was just leaving to go to the Marines. My son he just turned 18. He was all grown up. My ex went to prison. My son was happy. He was going to the Marines. He was happy. He was leaving for Paris Island, and then pretty much this happened. And
But you can correct me if I'm wrong, though. You told me your boyfriend prior to this had been experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, because he was using
and
that drug.
He had stepped off the deep end prior to all this happening.
Yeah, and he stepped off the deep end, and his family immediately put him in like a rehab. He started taking I can't remember the drug now, but oh, shoot, lithium. They gave him lithium. They said he was bipolar manic and gave him lithium. He stopped drinking, stopped doing the drugs. See, I never touched that meth until I was in my late 30s. Like after I got off pain pills, that's how I got off. The DEA cut off all supplies to oxycodone. If you left the county, you could no longer go. And I lived in Tampa. Well, DEA said if you live outside of Sarasota County, you have to stay in Sarasota County. Well, they didn't, the doctors weren't prescribing it. That's how I had to get clean because the doctors just cold turkeyed us after 5 years. And again, I think it's all sting operated, you know, because they're the ones who allow the drugs to come into the state. And they told me this is a game of cat and mouse. Well, you're allowing the drugs into the state, and then you're arresting people for selling the drugs. So it's all kind of like, you know, that's how I feel. But
well,
anyway.
what I really want you to get into, because this is where it really started to get interesting for me, was all of a sudden after you recover and you have the baby,
Yeah.
you start at your job, you start hearing, you're hearing these voices telling you things about your child. That's what I want you to get into.
Yeah. So after my ex goes away and it goes to prison, he's in prison now. I'm trying to move on with my life, but I started using this drug. So I get paranoid, and that's, you know, that was their game. It was paranoia. Every time I got a roommate, my girlfriend moved in with me, so I wasn't alone. And every time the door was shut, I'd hear her talking shit about me. And here, I'd open the door, there'd be no one there. So that was them playing the game of paranoia. And then I started dating this guy, Kane, and Kane was a little bit of a freak, I found out, and I ended up kicking him out. We didn't work out. We were together for like 3 months. It didn't work out. I had to kick him out. It was a nightmare. Cops came. It was just terrible. And then my roommate, you know, we were doing drugs together. We had somebody move in with us, which was her boyfriend. And I think that's really what it was. He was doing it. He was selling drugs, and that's what got it. They were already there for me, though, with paranoia. He moves in, it gets worse. And then I end up getting sick. I go to the hospital, and that's when they started talking to me. They're like, listen, everything you've seen, I believed that my boyfriend was stalking me. I'd hear his voice out there, and I dumped him and kicked him out. They played it to where I had everyone believing that he was stalking me because I'd hear him outside my window. He wasn't there. Now I find this out. And I end up, you know, breaking up with him, and he's gone. They have me all stalked out. I start dating this guy, Grant. And I'm losing it now, by the way, guys, because I'm hearing behind closed doors. I'm slamming doors. I'm mad at everybody all the time. I think my neighbor's mad at me. Like for 4 or 5 months, they had a whole team of people playing these parts of my neighbor. Every time I walk outside, my old lady neighbor would bitch, like, what is she doing? What is she doing? Like all the time. And then finally, I go to the hospital, and for something, my knee. I got bit by a spider. My knee swelled up. I thought I had MRSA, and I go to the hospital. That's when voices started talking from the hospital. I would hear behind a closed door that I was blacklisted, and the voices said behind the closed door at the hospital that this is Monica. This is what I hear as I'm changing my clothes. This is Monica. She's a sad story. 3 years ago, she came in had her gallbladder removed. She had emergency gallbladder removal. 6 months ago, she she had a miscarriage, and 3 months ago, she ended up having a domestic violence issue where her mouth was wired shut and jaw broke, blah blah blah. And then they said, this is what the boys said. They said, well, she's a sad story, but she's also a needle junkie. And I was a needle junkie. And they said, you've been blacklisted. We got to blacklist her. We can't see her. She's a sad case. We can't help her. She hasn't paid her hospital bills. That's what the boy said. So I get up. This is where it gets, okay? I get up and I'm like, did you say? And remember, I hear the voice. I think it's outside the door, like a nurse telling, you know. So I go outside. I stand up and I'm like, did you say I was blacklisted? And the voice is like, yep. And I was like, so I can leave then? She's like, yep. See ya. And I'm like, all right. Put my clothes on. Go to walk outside. You know, and the nurse triage lady is like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, I just got blacklisted. She's like, what? I got blacklisted. They just said you're blacklisted. Yeah, and I can leave. And she's like, honey, we don't blacklist people. We're not that kind of hospital. They're not a private hospital. So I was like, she's like, go back in. It's okay. Well, they take me to a different room. So as I'm sitting on the bed, they have the intervention. The voices are like, listen, Monica, you're a needle junkie. You're a needle junkie. You're a needle junkie. You're a needle junkie. And I'm like, what? And they're like, but you're not a junkie. People love you, Monica. You're a good person. You got to get clean. We have people here to talk to you. And I was like, what? And remember, the voices are still on the other side of the room. I'm thinking that a TV screen's going to come down and the hospital's intervening. That's what I'm thinking in my head. They're like, we put you through everything you've been through. We did that to you. We're a secret society, and we're the FBI. We implanted a tweaker speaker in your ear, and your ring is a microphone. That's why you could only hear the confusion. We're trying to get you clean. You need to go to rehab. We have your neighbor here, and they had all the voices. They had my neighbor Hannah. They had my new boyfriend. They had my roommate, and they're all saying, Monica, we love you. We need you to go to rehab. So then they bring in Kane. Well, me and Kane just broke up. That's the one I'm thinking has been stalking me this whole time. You know, I didn't know it was a game. I really thought Kane was stalking me. I'm telling people he's stalking me and shit. And the guy goes, Kane goes, Monica, you need to go to rehab. I'm like, get out of here. I'm yelling. Now remember, there's nobody there. Nobody else can hear what's going on. And then they're like, we have one more person. We brought Jim all the way from Pensacola. Now he'd been sentenced. He got 2.5 years for aggravated assault with great bodily injury. 2.5 years is all he got, which is ridiculous. He didn't even get charged with strangulation. Like, the whole charge was bullshit. And I mean, he should have it's bad. That 2.5 years, come on. And he had 27 convictions for assault and battery since he was 18 by 40 years old. So he really got it easy. You know?
So how long does he still have to serve?
He's already out. He's been out for a year. See, that's where the plot twists. So the very last voice they used was Jim, and he's like, we brought him all the way from Pensacola, which is hours from us, like 12 hours, 7 hours, something like that.
Well,
And,
you know, I'm gonna say that I feel like we're gonna have to follow up with you on another episode. Yeah. I have really to get a couple things off my chest concerning your situation.
Yeah.
Needing a guest with your certain situation on the show.
Yeah, this is what I was getting to with you, Monica. This is what I wanted V to discuss with you.
Okay.
And okay, I come from a shamanistic bloodline. I'm African and Cherokee. Okay.
Oh.
It's I got a duality there, and you know, I'm not gonna say I have very much experience with drugs per se, but what I can tell you is that from what I've learned, you know, people want to say that you know, drugs are the gateway, and today that is true. Drugs are the gateway to lots of problems, seeing as how I mentioned earlier, these intelligence agencies, their covert technologies, their infinite monitoring systems, from cell phones, Wi-Fi, and so forth, all this stuff is interconnected. They have technologies that can mess with your head. I'm not going to sit here and tell you anybody not to do mind expansion activities, because me being a shaman, I know better. Okay, I can say this because for the simple fact that there's a campaign. There's always a duality. If you don't do anything that expands your mind, if you don't engage in an activity that does expand your mind, if you don't put yourself centered in a place to where you can expand your mind, it's not substance abuse oriented. You have a mind that is asleep, and that's what the government wants. That's what secret societies want. That's what these Illumitards want. A prison for your mind. Now, anyone who wants to go outside the boundaries that are drawn for them, they get screwed with heavily. Heavily. Social engineering, targeted by directed energy weapons, covert technologies, screwed with by the legal system, and so forth. Experimented on as this situation puts you as a guinea pig, and so forth. Now, I'm going to tell anyone who is going to do any mind expansion substances to have a spiritual guide, have a shaman with you, because you enter in another realm and you need a guide. Okay? You need an ascended master with you. Now, me, I can tell you, this stuff is so ingrained in my bloodline, I didn't have to go that far. I felt the difference. I got my awakening. The difference from me having Kool-Aid to orange juice. I noticed the difference between me having this sugar and powder and chemicals in this fluoridated water to having pure and natural orange juice. This is before GMOs. Okay,
Right.
I noticed the difference. That's how deep my shamanistic presence got into this, and where my awakening started from. Okay, I'm of African American descent. These people want to talk about a master race. Well, they created the master race by feeding the black slaves all the parts of the animals that they didn't want to eat. That happen to be the most nutritious parts of the animals, which is why we're all athletes. Okay, there's so much into what we take into our body and what we apply, what we keep of that. So, with the V2K thing, all these situations, people understand why humanity is falling apart. Yes,
Yeah.
the government wants to flood our society with drugs and tell us there's a war on drugs.
And
Yeah.
then
I
tell
just-
us not to use them.
Sure, right?
I don't-
And then tell us
So
not to use them.
that way
Well,
they
see,
can
the thing here is, this is what bugs me, okay? When they came and they played their little game, well, I was like, listen, man, you put a bug in me and I can only hear you, nobody else can. All of a sudden, I'm going crazy, you know what I mean? I'm pissed. Now they're talking personal to me. Before, it was all behind closed doors. These people played Jim Beigel. That was his, they played him. They came in and they used his voice and they gained my trust, because that's where I understand, okay, well, anyway, they used his voice and that's how they gained with the knowledge of everything about us. They were able to convince me my dad is a retired police officer and I can trust these people. And that's what he said. That they said, because we protect cops' children. If you can hear us, but you can't see us, can you trust us? Well, what would you do? My dad's a cop. I've always been taught to trust cops. Shit. So I'm thinking these are the FBI. That's what they told me. They were the FBI. That they're here to protect me. So that's what they told me. So now I get clean. I end up losing everything. I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost everything because they told me they were paying for everything, and I believed it. Now I'm telling my mom this, and my mom's thinking I'm crazy, and so I lose my place. I end up getting clean. I heard this for months and months. I'm like, listen, maybe if I get off the drugs, it'll stop. So I finally get clean, get my shit together, get a job, get pregnant. I stay clean. I've got all the records, you know what I mean? You have to go to the hospital. I'm 40 years old now. I'm a high-risk pregnancy. I had a miscarriage a year before this at 4 months, so I'm at higher risk, and I only have one kid who's like 19. So
this
I end up
is
having her.
social. Let me stop you there again. The show's run long.
Okay.
This is social engineering, because you've had your experience with drugs. They have not been successfully able to kill you.
Right.
They want to stop you from having children and so forth. This is the social engineering. But yes, Kristen, if you want to close out for us.
Yeah. Monica, I want to thank you so far for coming on the show, and we're going to go ahead and pick up again on another episode, because I know what V has coming, what he's going to try to attempt to get going for you, because having heard your entire story, it's highly necessary that there's some intervention here.
Yeah. And I just
So-
don't know who to turn to at this point. I'm afraid to contact anyone because I'm still looking crazy.
Yeah, I understand that. So
You know?
I wanna thank you once again for coming on tonight. And I will be in contact with you shortly. And this has been another edition of Targeted. And thank you for
Thank you so much.